Hi everyone, and welcome to TWF Collision or Hit. I, Tony Schiavone, with Jim Ross, and with with Montel Vertadius Porter. And today on Collision or Hit, we have a good show. But yesterday, we're going to talk about what happened yesterday on Friday Night SmackDown. And we saw Asuka put the TWF heavyweight winnings on stake against Becky Lynch and beat Becky Lynch and kept the TWF heavyweight winnings, Tony Schiavone says. You got that right, Jim Ross says. Asuka fought Becky Lynch yesterday, and she ended up beating her and keeping the TWF heavyweight winnings. So anyone who hasn't seen that, they can go back and watch that if they want. I'll tell you one thing right now, Tony and Jim. Now Becky Lynch, she can say that she's had her match, for the TWF heavyweight winnings, but sadly, Bobby Lashley hasn't, had his match yet. And sadly, Bobby Lashley hasn't had his match yet. And then once I dig him out, once I see where he's at, he will fight Asuka for the TWF heavyweight winnings. Well, we'll have to see. But here comes Drew McIntyre. You want to know one man that hasn't been asked if he should fight or to stand the bloody hell up, that he should stand, one man who hasn't been asked if he should fight Asuka for the TWF heavyweight winnings, and that's me, Drew McIntyre. You see, no one bloody asked me if I wanted to fight for the TWF heavyweight winnings. So Asuka, I don't give a shit about Ricochet. I don't care about Keith Lee, about Arrow, Taylor, Becky Lynch. And I don't care about Shrek or Poe or anyone else that supposedly somehow it's gotten ahead of me. I could care less. So right now, I'm saying, Asuka, you're gonna fight me for the TWF heavyweight winnings. And I don't care what Ricochet thinks, or what Keith Lee thinks, or what Cody Rhodes thinks, because we all know they're going to say that they want to have a bloody shot at it. But it's me who's going to get that shot at it. And unlike everyone else, I will not lose. Well, we'll see, Tony Schiavone says. Drew McIntyre tends to believe in himself and thinks he can beat Asuka, but here's Asuka now. So, Drew McIntyre, you have a hard time standing up, but that's not the point of why I'm here. All we dolls have a hard time standing up. So, you say that it should be you fighting for the TWF heavyweight winnings. Is that getting that plot? Well, I don't know where you were at, Drew McIntyre. I don't know why you didn't choose. Why you didn't choose to fight me when you could have done so earlier. But now you did. Now you're choosing you want to fight me now? Drew, I don't think that you're ready for Asuka. You knock that bloody shit off right now, because I know I'm ready for you. You think you're so great, Asuka. You think you're so great. Well, I know once you get in the ring with me, you won't be so great. And somehow, some way, I wasn't put in there. They didn't pick me No, they picked Arrow. They picked Taylor. They picked Becky Lynch. Hell, they even picked Ricochet and Keith Lee. But they didn't pick me. I guess they were going to pick Cody Rhodes and Shrek and Bo and King Valkyrie. Hell, hell, they would have even been dumb enough and they even would have picked Bayley over me. Oh, well, I'm so sorry that you didn't have your match with me. But I owe you, once I'm done with Ricochet, and once I get past Keith Lee, then I'll am up fighting you for the TWF heavyweight winnings. And then I will beat you. Well, Asuka's going to keep her word, and if she is still the TWF heavyweight fighter after she has her matches with Ricochet and Keith Lee, then she'll fight Drew McIntyre. But I don't think Drew McIntyre is that happy. You know what? I know of another way that I can get to fight for the TWF heavyweight winnings. You know what that other way is? By fighting the one shithead that somehow ended up getting it right before I did. That's right. I'm talking about you, Keith Lee. First off, Drew McIntyre, you gotta keep your name out of my mouth. Alright? I won a Fighting King League, which gave me the right to fight Asuka after Ricochet had his match with Asuka. And there's many wrestlers back there and yielding their shift. You brought up Shrek, Poe, King Valkyrie. You even brought up Cody Rhodes. You even brought up Alexa Bliss. All of those folks could be good TWF heavyweight fighters one day, and I'll be. And if you think you're man enough to beat me, I'll even put that on stake here. And if you beat me, then you can be the next one Asuka beats if she beats Ricochet, or Ricochet beats her. But I don't think you are. Well, I don't think so, because you can't stand up. Well, here comes one of the fight keepers in the ring now. One of the match keepers in the ring now, so now we got a match. This match is Keith Lee fighting Drew McIntyre. Now, if I understand this right, Tony Schiavone says that means all a Claymore kick to Keith Lee by Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre going right after Keith Lee, Tony Schiavone says. Well, I don't know how wise it is, Jim Ross says, for Keith Lee Keith Lee got Drew McIntyre and slammed him. I don't know how wise it is to put your right to fight the TWF heavyweight fighter on stake. To tell you the truth, I don't know, Michael Cole says. To tell you the truth, Montero Porter says, I'd have to say that was a dumb thing. What if Drew McIntyre beats Keith Lee? Then that means Keith Lee won't be fighting either Ricochet or Asuka. So that's dumb, Montero Porter says. Bobby Lashley would never do anything like that. And you know Bobby Lashley wouldn't make any dumb things like that, right? Tony Schiavone says. And now Drew McIntyre taking down Keith Lee with a body slam. And Keith Lee is right now, hopefully he can beat Drew McIntyre, and hopefully will give him the right to face either Ricochet or Asuka next. And Keith Lee, just flashed it down Drew McIntyre. And no need, Jim Ross said. You got one thing right, Tony. Hopefully Keith Lee will beat Drew McIntyre and still have his right to face still have his right to fight either Ricochet or Asuka later this month, Jim Ross says. Now, why is he doing that for? Montel Mercedes Porter says. You know that's not wise. You get down from there, Keith Lee. It's not going to end well for you. Oh! And I don't know. You may have been right, Montel Mercedes Porter. Whatever Keith Lee was thinking, it didn't end well for him. Drew McIntyre Claymore kicked him, and I think this match is over, Tony Schiavone says. Yes, I believe it's over, Jim Ross says. It's done. 1, 2, 3. Ding-a-ding. Here is your winner, and now has the right to fight Asuka or Ricochet next month. You know, Drew McIntyre. Well, you may have been right about that one thing, Michael Cole says. It may have been a mistake, an oversight on Keith Lee, you know, for Keith Lee for getting on the top steeple, you know, knowing that he could be smoothly drop kicked and knocked down or Claymore kicked, as we saw happen, Tony Schiavone says. Yes, we saw that happen, Jim Ross says. And Keith Lee, he was a good wrestler. He just made a mistake, you know. Yeah, and that mistake just warped him fighting for the TWF heavyweight winnings, Tony and Jim. That's something Bobby Lashley would never do, Montel Mercedes Porter says. Well, speaking of that, could be right about that, Tony Schiavone says. But we know Bobby Lashley would make some mistake. It might not be that one. Hey! We'll take it away to Renee Young. Thank you, Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross. I'm going to be talking with Drew McIntyre here today on Collision or Hit. Alright, Drew McIntyre. It seems that you will now be the one to either face either Ricochet or Asuka next month at either Bash at the Beach or Heatwave or SummerSlam. Whatever you want to call it. Whatever they're doing this month, it could be Heatwave, Bash at the Beach, I don't bloody care. But I know next month, SummerSlam, I will either be beating Ricochet or I'll be fighting Asuka. And then I will be a three-time TWF heavyweight fighter. Keith Lee made a big mistake when he went on that top steeple. It was an oversight, and I made him yield for it. Well, yeah, you did. And you also seem to be truly angry or irked that folks like Arrow, Taylor, Becky Lynch all fought, you know, Asuka before you did. Yeah, I am pissed off that all those folks got the right to fight Asuka before I did. But sooner or later, I will be a three-time TWF heavyweight fighter. And I'll be a three-time WWE heavyweight fighter. Because I hope that Cody Rhodes beats John Cena so I can beat him in WWE. And either Asuka or Ricochet win, I don't care. Because either way, I'll beat them, and then I'll be a three-time TWF heavyweight fighter. Well, that's my talk with... Stand up. That's my talk with Drew McIntyre. Back to you, Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross. Well, thank you, Renee Young, for talking with Drew McIntyre here today on Collision or Hit. Shit, and that's all the time we got here, you know, for Collision or Hit. Tony Schiavone, with Jim Ross and Montel Mercedes Porter. We hope you like Collision or Hit, and we'll see you tomorrow for Power or Might.